Jai Swaminarayan. Today we are reading Sārangpur 5 of the Vachanamrut. This passage is called Anvay-Vyatirek. On Shravan Vari the 9th, Samvat 1877, which is the 1st of September 1820, Swami Shri Sahajanand Maharaj was sitting on a large decorated cot on the veranda outside the north-facing rooms of Jiva Khachar's Darbar in Sārangpur. He was dressed entirely in white clothes. At that time, an assembly of munis, scholars, as well as devotees from various places had gathered before him. Thereupon, Muktanand Swami asked a question. Which method of eradicating worldly desires is so powerful that that method alone incorporates all other means? Muktanand sounds like he's asking for a shortcut. I respect the question. Sriji Maharaj replied, the worldly desires of a person who has the following 4 attributes in their heart will be eradicated. Shraddha, faith or devotion, faith in the words of God and His devotees, affection for God, and the knowledge of God's glory. I think when you hear the terms God's glory, perhaps you can imagine just a feeling of reverence or an awe or an appreciation for the infinitude that the ultimate source of existence is. Of these, if only the knowledge of God's glory is extremely powerful, and the other 3, Shraddha, faith, and affection, are weak, then they will also become extremely powerful. On the other hand, although one may appear to have intense bhakti, loving devotion, if it is not coupled with the knowledge of God's glory, it will ultimately be destroyed. For example, a 10 or 12-year-old girl who has contracted tuberculosis will certainly die before she matures into a young woman. And this is true at the time, at the turn of the 19th century. Treatment for tuberculosis was usually not favorable for the person infected, and there were very few survivors. However, in modern times, there have been very successful treatments for tuberculosis, and where I live in the West, you practically don't hear of anyone contracting this. Unfortunately, although effective treatment does exist for us in the West, it still has not reached areas of developing nations, such as tribal communities where many stories in this book take place today in Gujarat. Anyway, similarly, one whose bhakti, whose loving devotion, lacks the knowledge of God's glory will find that their bhakti will be destroyed before it matures. How can you expect to maintain loving devotion for something that you lack knowledge of? Furthermore, if a person has bhakti, has loving devotion for God in their heart, coupled with the knowledge of God's glory, then even though they do not possess any other redemptive virtues, they will still develop in their heart. Conversely, if a person does not have bhakti in their heart, coupled with the knowledge of God's glory, then even though they possess redemptive virtues such as tranquility, self-restraint, etc., they are as good as being absent because they will ultimately be destroyed. Therefore, even if one possesses only bhakti, loving devotion, coupled with the knowledge of God's glory, the worldly desires which one harbors will still be eradicated, and all of the redemptive virtues will still develop and reside within one's heart. Therefore, bhakti of God coupled with the knowledge of His glory is the greatest and most steadfast means to eradicate one's worldly desires. and I'll add some commentary here, the reason one would want to minimize worldly desires. And what are worldly desires? They're desires to attain something for yourself in the world, like maybe a successful career, or even a lot of money in the world, or perhaps a certain type of relationship with someone else. All these things for attaining something in the world are secondary to the spiritual practice of, well, attaining divinity, attaining association with the divine, because only then will our infinite thirst for bliss be satisfied, for nothing in the world can quench an infinite thirst. And the reason, in my opinion, why simple loving devotion and knowledge of the glory of God is sufficient to eradicate worldly desires is because you get a taste of the infinite. Once you have that taste of the infinite, then your aspiration for the finite just dwindles, because it's like being given something so much sweeter than what you already have, so you let go of what you already have. Then Swayam Prakashanand Swami asked, what is the Anvay, the positive, the agreeable, the concording nature of the jiva, the individual self, and what is its Vyatirek nature? What is its disagreeable, absent or negative nature? What is the Anvay nature of Akshar, and what is its Vyatirek nature? How should Purushottam Bhagwan be known in his Anvay form, and how should he be known in his Vyatirek form? Sriji Maharaj explained, when the jiva, the individual soul, is said to be the experiencer of births and deaths, that should be known as the jiva's Anvay form. When the jiva is said to be uncuttable, unpierceable, and eternal, that should be known as the jiva's Vyatirek form. When Ishvar, when God behaves as one with its three bodies of Virat, Sutratma, and Avyakrut, that should be known as the Anvay form of Ishvar. When Ishvar is described as being characterized by eternal existence, consciousness, and bliss, Satchit Anandam, and as transcending its body in the form of the Brahmand, the universe, that should be known as the Vyatirek form of Ishvar. That which is the inspirer of Prakriti Purush, of nature and its controller, and all of the devas, the deities such as Surya, the sun, Chandra, the moon, etc., should be known as the Anvay form of Akshar. The form in which there is not even a trace of the influence of Prakriti, Purush, etc., and in which only Purushottam Bhagwan resides, that should be known as the Vyatirek of Akshar. The Anvay form of Purushottam is that which resides in the hearts of both bound jivas and released jivas as their witness. Yet, he remains untouched by such states of bondage and release. In the same way, he also resides in the hearts of Ishvars, of lords, gods, and Akshar as their witness. Yet, he remains devoid of their influence. The form that transcends Jiva, Ishvar, and Akshar should be known as the Vyatirek form of Purushottam. These are the Anvay-Vyatirek natures of the various entities. Again, Muktanand Swami asked, does the importance of God's darshan, the importance of chanting His holy name and the importance of the touch of God apply only to the devotees of God, or does it apply also to all beings? These refer to bringing the form of God to all of our senses, to our sight, that's called darshan, hearing and chanting the holy name and listening to scriptures and songs, that's to our ears, and of course, the touch is our sense of feeling. Sriji Maharaj answered, "The modes of darshan, chanting, etc., are certainly different, so please listen as I explain them to you. When a person does darshan of God with their eyes coupled with their mind, then that darshan would be such that it could not be forgotten, even if they tried to forget it. In the same manner, if the skin is coupled with one's mind when one touches God, then that touch will also not be forgotten. For example, the Srimad Bhagavat narrates the words spoken by the gopis, the milk maidens, to God. O God, since the day we touched your feet, all of the pleasures of the world besides you are like poison to us. Likewise, when all of the respective Gyan Indriyas, the five senses, are coupled with the mind and are then engaged in darshan, listening, touching, etc., the experiences are never forgotten. To give another example, an ignorant person who indulges in the Vishayas, the objects of our experiences, the sense objects, when the five Gyan Indriyas are coupled with their mind, can never forget them, even if they want to forget them. Similarly, only that darshan of God, listening to the talks of God, etc., which have been done with the mind engaged, should be known as darshan, listening, etc. On the other hand, a person may do darshan, but it is as good as not having done darshan at all. Why? Because at the time they were doing darshan, their mind was wandering elsewhere. Consequently, they will certainly forget that darshan within a day, or maybe within 5 days, or maybe within 50 days, or maybe within 6 months, or maybe after 1 year or after 5 years. Ultimately, it will not remain. Therefore, only one who engages the five Gyan Indriyas, the eyes, ears, etc., coupled with the mind, in the darshan, touch, etc., of God with intense love and understanding of His glory, attains the fruit of that darshan, touch, etc. Others who have the darshan, touch, etc. of God attain only the seeds, but the real importance applies only to those who engage in the darshan, touch, etc. together with the mind. All right. That concludes Vachanamrut Sārangpur 5. Thank you for listening.